What's up, y'all? Real quick. So I just got to reading a thread about a young man. I think his name is Jeremiah Williams, and he's talking about pretty much being groomed and abused and assaulted over a period of time by a man that was one of his teachers, and I guess was seeking to be like one of his mentors or something. Um, yeah, and what I'm seeing on like the original post or whatever of the video that the dude made. Um, what I'm seeing is what appears to be men in the comments, essentially victim blaming, saying it doesn't seem like he was forced, or not necessarily even just victim blaming, but more so being very disingenuous when it comes to acknowledging the fact that a sixth grader, fifth or sixth grader, pretty much between the ages of 10 and 12, was engaging or allegedly engaging in some type of sexual acts with his teacher or a teacher, may not necessarily been his teacher, but clearly an adult that was at his school for whatever reason at some point in time. The point that I'm trying to get to with all this, right? We're talking about a pretty much a prepubescent, an adolescent boy. And the point that I'm trying to get to is the importance of sex education in school, right? I grew up in Texas. We didn't really have no sex education. The most we got as far as sex education went was eighth grade health class, and that was pretty much it. But the reason why I'm talking about this is not for the actual discussing of what sex is per se. That's not really what I'm saying, as far as sex education. But if there's even going to be a course or a class taught on, let's say, sixth grade and up, as far as what sex is and, like sex education, there needs to be an emphasis on identifying what consent is and what consent is not. And that will cover not only what consent is, but exactly who all can consent to what with who, right? So, as an example, you might have an 11-year-old that, is liking another 11-year-old, maybe a 12-year-old or something. They're in the same class and they like each other. And maybe they might, kiss, they might hold hands or whatever. I'm not saying that that's what they need to be doing, but I'm saying that it's understandable that if you have two kids that are in the same class in close proximity to one another, they may develop feelings or an attraction for one another, and they may engage in something like that, something that's light, that's innocent, that could be understandable, something that doesn't necessarily cross the line as far as sex go. Which again, that goes to the part of what can be consented to and what and who can it be consented to with, right? So if you're talking about, okay, things that kids can do, okay, maybe if you have this person you like and this other, your peer that you like, you can hold hands or something like that too. Of course, and this is something that needs to be understood and agreed upon by the parents that's going to the school. It's not something that should be suggested or something that should be just forced on kids too. Because I understand a lot of parents, they want to be the ones to mold or they want to be the ones to control the sexual awareness of their children, if that makes sense. I get that, I understand that, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I do think that as far as schools and like curriculums go, there needs to be actual focus being placed on what consent is, right? Because as you know, a lot of us are learning, as a lot of us are seeing, there are a lot of adults that do not understand or do not really get what consent is and who all can consent to certain things and why certain power dynamics play a part in say for instance like these age gap situations of sexual abuse or sexual assault, or even these maybe like some of these relationship issues where there's a power dynamic due to age and experience and maybe influence, stuff like that. I think that is one of the areas where being, for lack of a better term, where being conservative has actually ended up hurting many of us, because a lot of us have ended up growing up not knowing exactly what consent is, not knowing exactly what consent is not. And a lot of us have reaped the consequences of that, either um, getting in trouble because we were ended up being accused and found guilty of SAing somebody, or because we didn't understand what consent was and the importance of it, and essentially ended up being coerced, whether it be through getting drunk, getting high, and essentially allowing yourself, or being inebriated. Well, I'm gonna say allowing yourself to be inebriated, because let's be for real, part of our culture literally inundated us with the notion that if you want to score or get lucky with a woman as a man, then you go ahead and you get that woman drunk, you get her high. In other words, you introduce hallucinogens or inebriants in order to try and lower this person's tolerance level or lower this person's resistance level, to increase your chance of having sex or some type of sexual access or attention from this person, right? That's a part of our culture, and I'm glad to see that we're coming out of it. But let's be for real. That is I'd say at least a good 20 to 30 year um, span in our community, in our society in America, where that is something that was pretty much pushed, that it was pretty much touted through different forms of media, whether it be music, whether it be like movies, whether it be books and stuff like that. That is very much so something that was pushed. So when it comes to students now, like I'd say, let's say 11, well, because that's still like that's the age range of the man, that's the age range of the man, as he's speaking about the time that he was first assaulted. And I think had there been more education, more room and opportunity for him to discuss this, or for this to be discussed as children or as a student in, the fifth, sixth grade, I do think that they would have helped to prevent this from going on, because the more students know, the more they can realize that this is wrong and this is something that should not be happening. Chances are, his parents, or his guardians may have let him know that something like that was wrong. But at the end of the day, you have a person that is in a position of authority or leadership over a person that they are in leadership over, where there would have been an adult, but in this case specifically a student that is a minor, exercising said authority and getting sexual favors from this student. In other words, they are sexually abusing this student. So just to wrap up right quick, the whole point of this video is to say that there should be sex education in schools for, I'd say, fifth grade and up, just so students know. And this is supposed to be a supplement to what parents or guardians are always supposed to be teaching their children or their students anyways, just so they actually know what consent is and what consent is not, which is going to include describing what coercion is and how it's normally applied, right? What it is and what it looks like in its different forms, as well as letting these students know, um, not only again what consent is, but who can consent to what, with who, right? Again, 2 11-year-olds, they might, hold hands, might even kiss, but there's no reason why they should be trying to actually engage in actual sexual acts, which could imply that this one of the students, maybe both the students, have been made um privy to adult things that they should not know at their age, or things that they should not be trying to engage in at that age, which should be the first red flag if you were to actually notify these kids of what they can consent to and what they should not be consenting to, and who they can consent to and who they should not be consenting to. Peace.